everyone, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to be taking part in my friend Laura's 10,000 subscriber video hop. That is so awesome. Congratulations, Laura. I've got a really special card planned for today, so I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. To start out, I'm going to be coloring a bunch of images that I'll be using on my card. These are from the Lawn Fawn Cheery Christmas and the Lawn Fawn Jump for Joy stamp sets that just were released. They just arrived in the mail yesterday, and I couldn't wait to play with them. That was perfect timing. So I'm grabbing a couple of my Copic markers here. I'm using the E50, E51, E53, and E55 to color my little deer. I'm using the darker two shades on the body of the deer, and then I'll use the lighter two shades to highlight the face and the belly on the sitting deer. But right now I'm just going in with that E55. I put down some shadows and I'm just blending everything out with the E53. And I'm going to color my sitting deer identically. I'm going to be introducing a lot of color with my leaves, so I wanted to keep the critters pretty simple and more neutral tones. For his antlers, I'm using the E53 towards his head and then just blending out with a little E51. And then I'll take E57 and just color in the little hooves. To keep the spots on the standing deer's hindquarters and his tail nice and bright white, I'll just color that in with a white gel pen. For my squirrels, I'll use YR18, E17, and E19. And I'm just going to start with my lightest, and I'm going to build up to the darkest, and then I'll color those back down in the reverse. When I'm working with deep shades, one thing I like to do is just color in the shadows at first and leave the centers of the critters white, and that's so that they don't become too dark by coloring over top of them repeatedly. As I build back down to my lightest shade, I'll finish coloring those so that there's only one strength of that YR18 over the part of the critters that I want to be the lightest. And that way, even though that they're a dark color, I still maintain some highlight. For the body of my owl, I'm going to use W1, W3, and W5. And I'm just starting darkest to lightest since the area that I'm coloring is such a small area and requires less blending. I'll use my YR18 again for his little beak and his feet. And I forgot his little arm, so I'll go back and color that in. I hadn't made up my mind how to color his belly, so I went ahead and moved to my little bird. And I wanted to color him to match the sky. So I'm using my B02, B00, and B000. And just coloring him in so that he kind of is darker towards the bottom and fades up towards the top. And grabbed my YR18 for his beak as well. And then I decided to go with E50 and E51 for the owl's belly. Since I had already used those on the deer, I just thought it was better to make him kind of match so that all the critters kind of go together. And I used that E51 for the acorn too. So now I'm ready to begin coloring my leaves, and I'm using a combination of YR04, YR07, and YR09 for the orange leaves. And I just kind of colored them randomly, just trying not to color two of the same color next to each other. And then for the greens, I use G21, G24, and G28. And again, just starting with the darkest towards the bottom or towards any part that might be underneath another leaf, and this blending out towards the top. My red combo is R29, R39, and R59. So if you guys aren't familiar with Laura, her channel is Making Cards is Fun. That's also her blog. And she is a really great crafter. She does really beautiful card layouts. Her color palette is always gorgeous. She does a lot of pastels, and she does a Saturday Stamp Day video every Saturday. So you definitely want to check out that and subscribe to her channel if you haven't already. So the yellow combo I'm using is Y15, Y35, and Y38. And I'm just finishing up my last couple of leaves here. And then I'll go ahead and die cut these images out. So my card base is a piece of MFT's snow cone cardstock folded to a standard size card. And then I use the Fawn Stitch Hillside borders to cut 2 different colors of green cardstock. I'm going to grab my ATG gun and just put a little adhesive on either end to adhere those. I don't want to adhere the whole thing, and you'll see why in a minute. Next I'm going to take this die for the pile of leaves from the Jump for Joy stamp set, and I'm going to tape it down with some post-it tape and do some partial die cutting just to where that tape is so that the edges are still attached. Now I will say that I use nice and thick cardstock so that my die did not cut all the way through from the lighter green hillside into the darker green hillside behind that pile of leaves. If you use thin cardstock, you may want to die cut from the panels separately before you adhere them together. So I got the idea for this card from those Lift the Flap books that my kids used to read when they were toddlers. They loved those books where you would just lift the little flap and it would reveal some hidden objects behind it. And I thought that would be a great idea for a card. So now I'm just testing out my images, and then I can go ahead and start to glue them in with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. And it did take a little finagling to kind of get them in there just right, but it was definitely worth it and really not that hard. You just had to bend that cardstock a little bit, and you see that is why I did not adhere the panels together in the centers. That way, you know, I had some room to kind of wiggle my little pieces around. And that's also why I use liquid glue for these little critters, because that glue takes a little bit to dry, and so it gives you time to kind of adjust them where you want them. So I did my owl and bird like they were holding hands, and now I'm going to adhere my little squirrel couple here and add a little acorn so it looks like they're gifting that to one another. And now I can grab my piles of leaves that I colored, and I can glue those right over top of those die cuts there. I just want to make sure that I don't put any glue near the edges so that there's no sticky getting in the way of letting them open. So just make sure that those are opening properly, and then I'll give those a minute to let them dry. I went ahead and stamped my sentiment off camera with some Lawn Fawn Noble Fur ink. And I just did that because I really needed to get right over top of that to line that up, because I did not want to mess it up after all that hard work. So now that that is complete, I'll go ahead and glue that to the card base. Since the sky is looking so empty, I am adhering some Stitch Puffy Clouds from Lawn Fawn to the top of my scene. I have a large one there and then a medium as well. I'm adhering my sitting deer to the top of the lighter green hillside, and I got a little too much glue on there, so I just rubbed the excess on the other deer. So he's all ready to go, so I can add him to the top of the darker green hill, so he's a little bit farther in the distance. And then I'm just going to grab my bone folder and help those leaves bend at the edges there now that the colored leaves are dry. And then just to finish off my scene, I'm going to take the extra leaves that I die cut and colored, and I'm going to adhere them all over the card with some glue dots, some mini glue dots. And I'm going to make some look kind of like they're flying away in the distance, and others like they're tucked behind the sitting deer. And this all just adds a little bit more color and a little bit more movement to the scene. I had one final yellow leaf that I just wanted to use, but it didn't seem to fit anywhere, and sometimes you have to learn to edit yourself. I had enough leaves on there, I really didn't need it, so I went ahead and pulled it off, and I can use that on another project. And that's going to complete my card for today. So I hope you guys really enjoyed. The next stop on the hop is Christine from Create a Smile Stamps, and I know she's going to have something really awesome for you guys. If you're new to my channel, there's a little video clip for you. Maybe after the hop you can come back and check it out. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.